topics that you want to stay away from?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
Nothing. All
So if
around
I
the cover.
mention more sports, gone, all that.
You can talk about everything. Transparency. Welcome everybody to another show. I've rebranded the whole thing and I'm calling my podcast Beyond the Table. So for my latest guest, I have Ben Looi. Is that how you say it? Ben Looi or Ben Looi?
Ben Looi. Yeah, Louis is actually correct.
Okay,
Louis.
Ben Looi, right? He
Yeah.
hails from Singapore, but
Oh no.
currently is in Dubai. He's
Yep.
traded
Which
some humid
is
weather for a lot arid one. So
yeah.
welcome, Ben. Great to
Thanks.
see you. Though I just
Yeah,
met you,
yeah.
like, we just hung out quite a bit
Yeah,
last
it
weekend.
feels like we were literally just speaking a couple days ago, and
Yeah,
uh, and it was actually a couple days ago that we
yeah, it
were in
was.
Colorado. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
actually less than a week ago.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
So
how's
for
things with
those
you so
that
far?
don't know about Ben,
Oh,
he is our guy. Though we call it floor manager, really he does a lot more things in a much small setup. Unlike the UFC, with they have unlimited budgets. They have very specialists. There could be a guy, and all he does is bring coffee around. Right? I kid you not. Right? But for our kind of setup, Ben plays multiple roles. So let's dive into one of your first role. Right? Just give a description, like say what do you do as a showrunner? So let's go with that.
yeah. Okay. So I guess the easiest way to start is to think about when the event is running, when the event is live. There has to be someone who is kind of keeping tabs on all the pieces that are being slotted in according to the time, right? So when you open the show, obviously you have the MC on stage, you have the lights turning on or a spotlight turning on, and the MC starts speaking. Someone has to be able to be the one who is controlling the pace of the show and the timing of like and the when the spotlight is on, or does he start when it's off and the spotlight fades on? Someone has to control that stuff, and a lot of it comes down to having a run of show and then coordinating the team according to that. So that's kind of one of my jobs, is making sure that everything is happening on time when it should. That includes special effects, lighting setups, announcers, commentators. Sometimes I will kind of check in on broadcast a little bit and be like, hey, is there a replay coming up in the next 10 seconds? Can the MC start talking? Should the interviewer ask them questions to buy time? So a lot of things kind of happen in the background that hopefully the audience doesn't really notice, right? It should seem like magic. So yeah, that's like one of the things that I end up doing on the day.
So we also noticed that you're rarely on camera as well. Is it by design?
Um, so I think I think the only time I've been on camera is when we mistakenly launched the stream live when we weren't live yet. I think that was like one of the few times that I might have been seen. But usually, yeah, we try and stay as the production team out of sight so that it seems like that there's the illusion that the event kind of runs itself. It's almost like you want to be the invisible crew, um, almost like in a movie. You don't want to see lights, you don't want to see the cameras, you don't want to see reflections of the crew. It's the same thing.
So maybe for everybody else, if you can explain the difference between a showrunner versus a show director.
Right. Okay. So the show director, and forgive me if my terminology is wrong or my explanation is not 100% incorrect, because I am, I've kind of stumbled my way into this as well. So as the show director, you kind of are the master controller of what happens during the show. Okay, you kind of have the ability to say, hey, let's have these guys on stage during the interview, or let's have them out of the shot during the interview, or when the match is going on. um, is there anywhere else that the, let's say, the cornerman can be, you can make those kind of calls. As the showrunner, you kind of a try and make those calls happen, but also b make those calls happen on time. So you kind of execute on the decisions that are kind of set out by the director, and you try and follow up with those things as much as your ability allows, right? Obviously it's a live event, so if changes happen, you kind of have to, like, be quick on your feet and try and find solutions. So it's a very problem solving oriented job.
Yeah, for everybody else, half the time at certain events, I do have, I wear one of those headphones that communicates straight with the entire production team during the live event. But even if I don't, in the event I don't have one, I actually run to Ben and says, Ben, like people on the stream are
Something's
complaining
wrong.
like the microphone's off, or there is the score is wrong, right? So he's also
Yeah.
kind of my go-to guy. And one really interesting part about Ben is I first met him in Georgia. Now, if you
Mm,
remember kind of the big highlight of the negative part about Georgia was that the lighting was having an issue, right?
yeah.
Because the team were in the Georgians refuse. Is that the right terminology, Ben?
I wouldn't say I so I think in Georgia it was a very special case, and when we talk about the lighting, at that time Adam had specified how he wanted the lights, but it just wasn't executed on. And there were a lot of things that happened in that chain of sequence, in kind of like that process of getting lights set up in Georgia, right? There were a lot of potholes, let's call it. So, but yeah, I think that was one of the situations where we tried to fix lighting on the go, and I think our solution was to kind of just like angle one of those portable
Right.
lights up at the table as the rounds were going on. um yeah, that was one of those boo boo moments where you wish that could have been communicated and made sure that it would happen better, that
Insisted.
we had like, yeah, that we had
I guess that word is
um
insisted. There was a lot of things
insist yeah,
that we
insisted
learned, but
and kind of confirmed that that was going to happen, right? And
yes.
it's one of those essential things that you can have it as plans on the drawing as much as you want, but if you don't see that front trussing coming up and you ask for front trussing, you're going to have to like call it out early, you know.
Yeah. So so I know there's a question real quick. Is Ben our my crew, like EVW crew, or Brian Shaw's crew? As of Istanbul, I believe we kind of made an agreement with Ben that he will have the whole entire year as our designated showrunner. But and we'll get to his second role in a second. But just
Yeah.
strictly on show running, Ben impressed me so much because if you remember, King of the Table, we were still under Core Sports who that ran the production,
Hmm.
and so at King of the Table 13 we had Don Idris who was the showrunner. He put the whole team together. Robert and I, we were just mostly there to observe and give a little bit of comments here and there, but not necessarily operate and run the whole thing. Georgia was technically our first event that we had full control from start to finish. So Ben was brought in, and Ben was incredibly calm. I was like freaking out on certain things. I was like, dude, where's the light? Dude, people can
Yeah,
you can't see this. And I was
yeah,
just like this, and Ben was like, no problem, I got it. Like, no problem, I got it.
we got to
We'll
figure
figure
things
it out.
out.
We'll
Yeah,
fix it. And I will, then I was particularly impressed that dude, this guy could really handle extreme stress situation. There's not
yeah,
many of them out there like this. Many would break down and crumble, and hands shaking, and
yeah.
you know and so Ben was like, wow, this guy really is knowledgeable, but not only that, but
do,
he was
do you want
calm
to
under
know
the
the
stress, which
secret
he
to
was.
that? Do you want to
Yeah,
know the
yeah, yeah.
secret why? So that I think I believe that's come from having had worse situations on streams before and been out the other side okay. And
Uh, yeah,
you mentioned Don Idris, right? Like
yeah,
I've had a long history with Don, working live streams, King of the Tables, East versus West. So I know how bad it can get and what kind of situation you can be in and still kind of pull out a decent pay-per-view, you know. And I think that mental state actually helps you stay calm and actually be more solutions oriented versus, oh shit, we're in a bad place here, right? It's like how do you get out of here?
right, right. So, what is the worst event that you're kind of describing that the
How
production
much
had
time do we
errors?
have, Mr. Tan?
No, no, no. Just tell me the worst, right? The worst production event, but
Yeah.
you still came out ahead
Yeah.
or okay.
So I think there is a benchmark for the production team of King of the Table that we use, and it is the benchmark of, I believe, King of the Table 3. It was done out of Strong Gym in Dubai, and due to whatever reason, you think missing lights are bad or missing front lights are bad. Due to whatever reason, we were about an hour and a half from going live, and we realized that we didn't have a front of house team.
Explain
Meaning,
what front of house
yeah,
team is.
yep, sure. So in the venue, right, front of house is the team that handles your essentially your lighting, your sound in your venue, meaning like the sound coming out of speakers,
Mm-hmm.
okay, any sort of LED screens, which at the time it was a small production, so we didn't have any, right? I think we just had or maybe we did have LED screens. I'm kind of fuzzy on that now, but I remember the running joke was after the event is like, if we can pull off an event where we took two like JBL Bluetooth speakers and ran down the street and bought like 10 meters of auxiliary 3.5 millimeter jack cables and plugged them into each other and somehow connected to them through Bluetooth. And we had someone playing the walkout songs on an iPhone. If we could do that an hour and a half with an hour and a half notice before going live at an event, we can get out of some pretty tricky situations. So that has been now the benchmark, and we bring it up sometimes. The production crew, we say, hey, we if needed, we can always get you a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and we can figure it out. So that's the code now for it's not that bad, you know. So yeah, I think those situations really make you or break you.
Yeah, well, Georgia wasn't that much better. Well, I mean, it's a lot better, but we still had to figure out some spotlight, those battery powered spotlight brought it to stage and
Yeah.
angle it from the
um,
bottom. But
and yeah, and I think part of being able to adapt and be flexible in your workflow and in your solution process is considering non-traditional methods, right? Like considering the traditional method, which is, hey, call the supplier and bring in the lights. That's going to take half a day, and that's not a solution. So you have to be able to adapt.
yeah, for the most part, maybe in the early days, viewers are a little bit more forgiving because
100%.
they know it's new and technically speaking, until King of the Table and East versus West, there never has been a production of even all the way to the one we just had in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
So there's
Yep.
been a lot of progress, right? Even but
Yep.
progress is never linear. It's sometimes when you think you've elevated the next level, you take a step back due to whatever
Yeah. and
mishaps.
and I think that's normal because you try and reach for a goal that is, you don't know if it's, what it will do for the sport, but you don't know quite how you can really achieve it or whether it's achievable, right? And you just
Right.
try your best, and you reach for it. um And sometimes, like you said, you take a step back, and it's normal. I think it for growth.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Uh, guys, ask all the questions you want, but I won't answer. Well, I'll definitely try to answer them towards the end. So I'm just saving all of the questions so we don't get interrupted too much.
Right.
Um, yeah, okay. So we've talked about show running, which I need to also clarify, and maybe Ben, you can do
Hmm.
that. What a run of show is?
Ah. Um. A run of show. Is it easier if if we just show a sample? Like, do you want to do that, or
Sure, sure.
I mean, how much are we disclosing here? Um. I can show a sample from one of the previous ones if you want, but basically, a run of show is a it's a document, almost like a timetable that details what's happening exactly when it happens. Um, so something like that could lay out exactly what type of lighting is happening at a certain time when an interviewer is speaking, or um, when, let's say, when music should come on, or what graphics would be on the screen that the viewer sees at that time. So it kind of details out to kind of the 15 to 30-second mark what should be happening at the show, what time the show should start, obviously, and where people should kind of be, whether the athlete should be ready at this point, or we're estimating that the ads would come around this point of the show, just to give the show some structure and to keep track of, hey, are we on time, or do we need to buy time, or are we over time in the case of if you're renting satellite time for connection. Do we need to hurry stuff up, right? Can we add time to the replays, or can we run an extra ad break for the sponsors? You need to be able to know whether you're ahead or behind. And part of that Bible is the run of show. How, if you do you want to show this? Can I send it to you? What?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Send it to me.
Okay.
I'm just on my secondary computer, so I don't have a copy of it. But
Okay.
yeah,
No worries.
it is very, very detailed. For our run of show, it includes saying who's responsible for what. So Neil is very instrumental. He's usually part of that meeting
Mm-hmm.
because occasionally there is a switch between who's commentating, uh, who's announcing, who's doing the post match interviews. Everything's all lined out there. So that's what you know everybody follows, all the guidelines, including uh, ad breaks, plugins, announcements, special announcements. When is Brian, Robert, or Dexter coming up on stage? Those are usually finalized, sometimes even up to the day of, because there'll be last minute changes. It also includes who walks out first and who walks out second. Who comes out second. And
Yeah.
for everybody, for everybody to know, we typically have the more Uh, if it's a world title match, the defending champion always walks out second, or the one that is more notable walks out second, or the one who's higher ranking walks out second. That's typically how we do things. Now, the order of the matches, that's little up for grabs, but we usually, and it's kind of known which event is the headliner, and the headliner is always last. Now, the tricky
Yep.
part about even our last event in Colorado was Devin was Devin's match and with Alex was definitely the headliner. But, which hand should be the final match of the day, that was kind of mixed for a second.
Mm,
Eventually, we kinda agreed that, okay, well, everybody cares about the left hand, let's do the left hand first. And the reason why that wasn't an automatic thing is because we noticed the concurrent viewers on our pay-per-view usually climbs all the way to the final match, right? In order to allow our viewers to capture the match of the evening, we wanted it to be last, which is why the compromise was match 6 and match 10 instead of our typical give the
yeah.
athletes as much space and time to rest in between matches. No, this time we kept it 6 to 10. So he was on the second half of the match. That's kind of how we we kind of structure things a little bit for sure. World title matches, we also pay a little bit more attention to um, the order as well. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you send it to me? Let's
Yep,
see.
I sent it over. I've sent it to your WhatsApp actually.
Oh, great,
So
great, great.
yeah,
Let me pull that up.
I think people are also just trained to know that the like title matches or the main event comes at the end, right? So that viewership trend kind of follows that idea as well. I think people are just used to how that idea works now.
Yeah,
You have it in like boxing fights, MMA fights. So
it's uploading. Ben got plenty of oxygen in that room.
breathe. Yeah,
That's
but I
funny.
think to be fair, the Colorado event it ran really smooth in terms of the timing of things. Um, and every pay-per-view has hiccups at the start. That's usually the issue. When we have audio issues, it's usually like, okay, pick it up at the start and then it gets fixed as the show goes on.
Well, before that, Ben, there's a question.
Yeah.
Why do you have so many plants? Do you meditate a lot?
No, I actually have a hobby, and I kind of picked it up about 3 years ago, and then everyone keeps buying me more plants for my birthday or for Christmas. Like the just defaults to the gift, so I end up having more and more. And recently I haven't been home that much, so it kind of just is the way it is.
That's super funny. So, guys, this is the run of show for Georgia, EVW
uh,
16.
yep.
And you can see there are so many different columns. You can see who's, uh, you know, Neil will kind of introduce Stoyan first, and then Vasily. It goes in, highlights. It's kind of show what the program feed is going to be.
Yeah.
So it's quite detailed. Feels like there's a lot, but usually almost every column there is a specific person who's in charge of pressing the buttons.
Yep.
So I think this is a really good segue. Before we get into this, Ben,
Sure.
maybe let's talk about the usual key roles in production.
Mm.
Okay, let's talk about the on the equipment side first. You want to go ahead with that?
Okay. So on the equipment side, you mean specifically in terms of what departments they are, or um,
So if you think about like Chicago, right? Jeremy's team.
okay, got it. So I'll make it very simple. Let's say, so you usually have a camera department, obviously, right? And that consists of operators. You have your vision mixer, who is the person who switches from camera to camera. You have usually your show director, um, with them in this department or under the department of broadcast. Um, and that's it for kind of camera, right? You obviously have more crew during the start to help set up and stuff, but during the show you have the camera team, which is your operators. You have your director, and you have your vision mixer. Now, your director and your vision mixer can be the same person depending on how big your crew is and how big your budget is. In terms of audio, you have one sound engineer, sometimes two, depending on if you are running both the venue sound and the broadcast sound from one board, or if you're splitting those up, then you need two operators, right? Then you have stuff for the venue. You have like your LED screens, and here we get into like your front of house, right? So your front of house is your audio, LED screens, special effects. Okay. Alongside with broadcast and the camera team, you have your graphics, you have EVS, which is your replay system, um, and graphics, EVS. Sometimes, depending on the budget and scope, again, you have a team that's dedicated to communications and comms. So there might be one central person that's calling stuff out and transferring and letting people know, like, okay, this person's gonna cue you in on this, or this team is gonna make that call, so wait for that cue. So there is sometimes someone, like there was in Colorado, right? So Charlie was doing that role, of kind of like letting people know like who they should be listening to, right? Um, and yeah, that's it. Very simple. So you have
So
you have just
okay,
a few
well,
people doing a few things.
and the reason why I wanted to split, but
Yeah.
it's okay. You kind of merge the two teams together.
Okay.
There's basically two separate teams. One handles mostly the hardware meaning camera
Mm,
operators,
I see
and
what
the
you mean.
raw feed, including the audio. There is also the raw audio feed.
Yeah.
All of that gets sent over to the broadcast team. So the broadcast team
Yeah.
would be the one who's picking the camera angles, the replays, um, and and we'll talk about the replays in a second.
Sure.
And they'll also be handling all the graphics. So every time you see a warning, a file, the name change, the different screens it pops up, it's a separate guy. So that there's so
Wrong
many.
number on the stat screen.
Correct, right? So they're all different individuals.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the past, um, it might still be the same in the future. We've typically handled the non-broadcast items because, for instance, it is pretty cost prohibitive to bring all the hardware, the equipment for the cameras, the soundboard, the lights, the rigs, the LED screens, and everything. It's pretty expensive to fly them with us. So our internal team we only have a few internal people, and we outsource everything else. Just like Brian Shaw. Just like Brian Shaw, he
Yeah.
hired I think it's Hamilton Road Productions. They came in and they pretty much handled most of the hardware. The only difference is they embedded more of their broadcast team as well. So
Yeah.
so there is that component. Ben is Ben was really instrumental, in my opinion, or how Chicago went and Colorado as well.
Mm.
Only to the level where he is able to manage. So
Yeah.
it's very hard to pinpoint that one person is responsible for the whole thing, other than potentially the me. Really, ultimately, it's if it goes well, if it goes bad, it's technically my fault because I'm the guy who hires the
Yeah.
physical team and also the broadcast stream team.
With that logic, you are the end all be all decision maker on things,
Well,
right? For the
technically, it's
most part.
Robert Baxter
Right.
because he's the one who chose to partner with me.
Yeah, that's the final decision. Yeah, okay. I kind of understand what you mean by the hardware versus the soft team. I would say that most places don't have an in-house production team, right? Most event companies outsource that because it's very hard for your company to be good at everything and hire everything in-house.
Correct.
The same way how a lot of companies might try to have an in-house photographer, but when there is a bigger project for commercial work or something, they're going to hire the expert who is specific to that role that they need. you
Correct.
know um,
Correct.
and I think Colorado is a very good example of that. Not only did Brian Shaw have a team, have I would say actually a very competent production team. Oh, hello, Kat. A very competent production team, but also he's worked with the arena before, I believe, and the arena has an in-house production team as well. So it's really merging kind of
Yep.
the capabilities and the capacity of everyone's work, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's really
That
what it was.
that is for sure the benefit. Being able to go back to the same venue, working with the
Yes.
same team, because say if we ever go back to Tbilisi, Georgia, even if we use the same production team, we use the exact same venue,
Yeah.
we can learn from all our mistakes. We will tell them, no, no, no. We will insist that you
Yeah.
have, a front-facing, bar
Yeah.
to host
No,
the lights.
not just that, but I think as well, if you work with people enough, you get a gauge of how fast they can work and their competency, right?
Correct,
And that's very
correct,
important, because if you don't know how fast someone can set up a stage and they tell you, oh, okay, I'll do it in 4 hours, it's hard to trust whether it's like, okay, is that 4 hours you'll have it up, or is it maybe 4 hours? You know, but the second time you work with it, you have to learn from your mistakes from the first time. So if he burned you before, like you gotta realize that, right? And that only comes with experience of working with the same people or at the same venue.
Correct. Even, I mean, when we initially got the schedule for the whole production in Colorado,
Yeah, I was worried
they
about
were
that
like,
one.
"Oh yeah, we'll set up, the whole stage and everything the afternoon of the event." I'm like, "What? We only have an hour to test everything?" I was a- I was sweating a little bit. I
We ended up
was
with less, I think.
Yeah, I think we did, and
Hmm.
we can get to that in a second because
Yeah.
that's your other role that kind of compensated for it.
Yeah.
So there is there's a lot of truth to that. Working with the same team, learning from the same mistakes, uh, knowing where everybody's capabilities, and then you know what you can expect. And if you think they aren't able to do so, you can supplement them with more assistance and supervision. So that's where I want to segue to. So
Yeah.
Ben's second role is kind of a floor manager. Okay. You wanna
Yeah, I would say it's so weird because um technically usually you have both a showrunner and a floor manager.
okay.
And the floor manager role kind of extends into the live stream, right? If I've done many live streams where I've told you know photographers to get out of the way of the broadcast cameras and let I haven't had to personally tell anyone to get off the stage, but it does happen, right? um, but yeah, during the setup I think is where, as a floor manager or a setup guy, I end up being quite involved with how the event shapes or how the event is shaped. Everything from I kind of narrowed it down to a workflow that I have in my head now. But the first thing I always do now, or the first thing I have to keep in mind now, is we have to get the table where it needs to be ASAP. That is my first that's my first kind of like line of defense. If we have the table there with time to spare, we can work around it. But we can have all the cameras in the world, all the lights in the world set up. But if the table is not there, we can't calibrate anything we need to calibrate, right? And then
Yep.
that, and then so my role in this situation as the floor manager or as the setup producer, if you want to call it that, I don't know, is to make sure that there are no bottlenecks in the testing process so that we have time to test at the end. Um, and part of that is making sure that, is the table at the venue as early as possible. So, meaning that if we have to transport the table to the venue, can we do it the day before, right? If the LED screens are going to be set up, is there a possibility of having them pre-built and then rolled in? So it's just basically streamlining everything so that we're not waiting on any one element before we begin testing. And along the way, obviously there's kind of decisions that you make and ideas that come up. For example, hey, can we do the walkout this way? Or can we have the lights this way? Or is the lighting sufficient? Does the chalk bowl go here or does it go here? Does it look bad in the shot? Does it look good in the shot? There's a lot of kind of set design elements. If you're more familiar with like film and photography, there's a lot more set design and aesthetic looks that you kind of want to have as well. Obviously, changing the placement of anything affects where your camera position goes, and then if you move where your cameras are, you have to make sure that the audience isn't in the way. So it does compound on itself a little bit in terms of complexity, and there's a lot of moving parts. But I think the easiest way to think about it is, um, we try and accomplish everything we can accomplish as early as possible. So I think in Colorado it was really good because they knew exactly where the stage was going to be. So even before the stage was set up, the day before actually, I was already there, kind of tweaking the lighting, estimating where the table is going to go, figuring out where the cameras are going to go, which whether that influences the seating plan or not. So I had a little bit more control on where kind of things were going to be, and it was helpful that we had access to the venue beforehand to test. Right, a lot of times, oftentimes at least, there will be situations where you don't have access to the venue until the day of, if it's an evening show, right? And then we're just there as early as possible in the morning trying to set it up. But yeah, that is basically my role before the live stream starts, which is making sure that we will be set up to test and run the show. Hence segues into showrunner after.
Yeah, Ben's pretty well. I mean, he's extremely good when it comes to getting all the testing and making sure the equipment works really well. Uh, though that he has some limitation because he's one guy and he's not
Yeah,
over the hardware. He can test it and he can organize all the testing ahead of time.
correct.
But if the equipment's faulty, there's nothing he can do about it. If the whole venue doesn't have power, there's nothing he can do about it. Just
Yeah,
just throwing it out there.
there are limits to what I can do as a person or even as a team actually. In specific cases, for example, well, hello. In specific cases, if, for example, let's say in Georgia, right, um, where they have their own equipment for production, they have their own camera operators, and it's the trifecta of we also don't speak a common language, right? Because a lot of the operators didn't speak English. So me trying to communicate to them and say, hey, test your cameras and make sure the white balance is good for you, or maybe we have to adjust the lighting, right? That has to jump through so many hoops because I can't go and personally adjust their cameras. Yeah, speaking of
And your
like,
light just popped up.
yeah, because I can't go and just like put my hands on their equipment, right? Which their operators are meant to be operating. And I obviously can't just go ahead and tell them. So I have to go find a translator to try and let them know that this is what I'm concerned about. Is the lighting okay? Can we move on from here? So there's a lot of steps. There's sometimes multiple steps in one task that you're trying to achieve. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That wasn't the easiest. So that they would always have some level of a delay in conveying our directions to
Yep.
the AV team simply because we didn't speak their language, unfortunately.
Yeah. That was I think it's one of those cases that you just have to take on the chin and be like, okay, we're doing it in a
With sign languages.
yeah, we're basically playing charades. Like try imagine you're playing charades, but trying to do complex science, right? Like don't pour that beaker into that container. Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, we are for sure taking things a lot more seriously. Uh when it comes to this, I mean, Robert is just trying to drill in my head, make sure our Switzerland event is on par or greater than Colorado.
Yeah.
Massive focus. We are bringing additional people in. Uh, that people that, matter of fact, it's Ben's mentor,
Yeah.
and so we are bringing Aussie, and but Aussie has been working on the previous East vs West and King of Table events.
So the if you want a little bit of backstory,
Okay.
um, all the way back at King of the Table 1,
Okay.
which was a 3-match pay-per-view event. This was when Larry Wheels was basically pushing arm wrestling as a sport, right?
Okay.
And we ended up doing the event. It was a smaller hotel room venue. We used the same kind of walkout screens from, yeah. We Fun fact. I don't think many people know this, and maybe now I think it's just maybe Adam that would. But there was a boxing event in this ballroom 2 hours before the show started for arm wrestling. So you know how the cameras are pointing in this direction now, right? But what
Right.
Bill is looking at over the arms of the arm wrestlers is a boxing ring in the corner of the room. because we shifted that over. So this was King of the Table 1, right? It was just the kind of a very basic setup you have. Um, but at this King of the Table, I was actually in charge of photography. I was there to capture photos. I wasn't actually on the broadcast or live stream team yet, right? So, but the person who was the original show director and also vision mixer and also audio engineer at the time, because he's wearing multiple hats at this point because it was a small production, small crew, was Aussie. So this was kind of the event that kick-started you know everything pretty much to where we are today. um, and he also and Ozzy and myself were also brought in, starting at East versus West 3 in Istanbul. So ever since then, I think we took a couple off, probably around the King of the Table 11 to 13 gap. During that time period, we weren't involved, but every other event for arm wrestling, whether it be East versus West or King of the Table, we were the production team. So surprise, if you were one of the people that were comparing East versus West production quality to King of the Table, it was the same guys. Jokes, secrets out.
It's the same guys.
Yeah, same
Well,
guys.
there is a massive difference though, Ben.
Yeah,
The difference is equipment.
correct. It was equipment and camera operators, like we said, because there's only so much you can do as a team that kind of flies in as a task force versus a production house that's on the ground, that is hands on the camera, physically doing the work of, like, okay, I'm going to pan the camera left, I'm going to pan the camera right. Same thing goes with your sound guys and your lighting guys, right? You hire guys that you think will work well, but you can't fly everybody in. you know that's
Yeah.
just unrealistic
For now. For now.
for now,
For,
until you get bigger.
correct. As the bigger we go, the possibilities are endless. Once we hit mainstream, we have a private
Buy your
jet
own
flying all
island.
equipment around the
Yeah,
world.
just buy your own island and then fly the athletes there. That's
Oh man,
arm wrestling
that
HQ.
would be cool. No visas too.
Yeah, make your own visas. You can blacklist
Well,
any. You can actually blacklist people then.
no, no, no. We don't censor people here. We don't
Oh,
delete
okay.
comments as
That
well on
doesn't
this
happen.
channel.
Okay.
We don't do that.
Okay. I,
But yeah, I mean, can you imagine being UFC having $1.1 billion? The amount of budget they have per event?
so it's so funny. It's so funny you say that. You bring up the UFC because obviously, when I was, during COVID, right, and then they announced this whole like Fight Island thing, right, right. But Fight Island was in Abu Dhabi, which is an hour and a half drive for me. And there's a small little island, and they made it sound like it was like a private island, like off in the middle of the ocean somewhere that you had to take a jet to. No, there's a bridge, there's a hotel, there's Warner Brothers World over there. It's it's like just a normal island, right? But the marketing was so good for this Fight Island that you could probably come up with an arm wrestling island. Make it Singapore, make it easy for me.
So heavily guarded with the island of security. No, we don't need security. Who wants to invade an island full of big strong men, buddy? And especially we have like special forces people
Mhm.
around, like
Yeah,
Devin.
look at that face. You don't want to mess with this guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally cool. Yeah, this
Just one second. Can I take like a 10-second breather? I just gotta grab something real quick.
sure, sure,
Yep.
sure.
One sec.
Sure. I'm gonna share this PDF. Okay, so this is an example of our run of show, and as Ben mentioned, right, we have multiple different people, and usually it's a LED screens. It's one person who's handling everything, PA, sometimes one, maybe two, audio mixers, right, audio engineers who's okay. Will move the audio from example. If an athlete goes to a corner, his microphone is only turned on for the live stream, but not for the in-person venue, because we didn't want people to uh, the opponent's corner listen to any of the strategies happening. So that's kind of what we do sometimes. They'll turn it on, turn it off, which is where it was really, really frustrating really, really frustrating in Arlington because
Wasn't there for that one.
that monkey who was handling all the audio, I've until now, like I probably get really, really mad less than 5 times in a whole entire year. Right. Really, really mad. I mean, if somebody cuts me off, I'm like, okay, whatever, right? It doesn't really bug me that much. But that guy, he bugged me so much where I literally like I remember there was one, I think it was Drew was about to go on stage. And I'm like, okay, get the cameras ready. Drew's going on stage. She's gonna hype the crowd up. It's commercial break. And he and over comms in front of every production crew member. He says, I'll turn it on when I turn it on. I'm like, okay. Well, I'm like, dude, it's
It's your
less than
show.
60 dude, I'm like, it's less than 60 seconds. Let's turn it on. We won't say anything. We'll just tap it just to make sure that the microphone
Mic
works,
live.
right?
Yeah.
And no, he doesn't do it. And guess what?
Forgets to
When
turn it on.
they went out, boom, doesn't work. They are exchanging microphones, and I don't know if it was on the live stream. I wasn't paying attention, but Neil would go backstage swapping out microphones. Why? All because of one arrogant crew member who thinks he's so good at his job failed.
Yeah.
And the thing he's one of those third-party contractors that is contracted by the venue. So it's not like I could fire him. But if you ever go back to the esports stadium in Arlington, I'll specifically request that he is not on the team. Like, he's so bad that I would not want him on the team.
That we will bring our own sound engineer if we have to.
Well, matter of fact, that if he's there, I would literally not go back to that venue. He is reason enough that I won't go back to the esports stadium. That's how bad it was. Not even messing around. Because how disrespectful he is, and how incompetent. It's one thing to be arrogant, but
and be good at your job.
Incompetent. That's like
that's extra bad.
Correct. Correct. So you guys can see a little bit of how the run of show works. A lot of planning goes ahead of time. Award ceremony, we even leave it in there just to remind everybody, hey, Marlene versus Fia, it's a world title match, guys.
Not only that, but that award ceremony is also so that the crew on the ground, shout out to Anna, knows and is reminded that, hey, I have to go grab a trophy and bring it on stage, right? Because she's usually the person that's also handling the athletes. So she needs to make sure that athletes, Daniel and Oleg, are already ready and is being stood there waiting and not going to run away while she goes and grabs this trophy and brings it on stage, right? So that every item here serves a specific purpose for someone on the team to reference. And as a viewer, you might be like, yeah, obviously there's an award ceremony there, but there's a lot of coordination in the background that takes place, which, like I said at the start, should seem invisible and work like magic, which, if we do our jobs right, should be magic.
Yes. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't always get the luxury of working with the good people, the right people.
Yeah.
So there's that. Commercial break comes on. Neil welcomes people back. Usually, like every time there's a line here, it's when Ben is responsible of cueing that person.
Something. Yeah.
Yep.
Usually. There are certain cases, for example, the line that usually doesn't really need to get looked at as much is the one that says CAMS GFX, which stands for graphics. EVS. That one is kind of self-explanatory a little bit. But hey, I never assume intelligence or competence anymore. I just write it for dummies. I just make sure that everything is on there, and this run of show format, it's always improving, right? So like our newer ones, we have the lighting scenarios down. We have who's commentating down. This is obviously from Georgia, so it's a slightly older one. But yeah, each item on here is meant for someone to take note of something. And it's been made that way specifically for to run the show, right? Because like I said before, if you don't have this, no one's accountable to anything. You can't keep track of, hey, that should have been Hermes first. Here it is on paper, right? It's kind of like that checks and balances thing. You want people to be accountable, and you also want everyone to be on the same page as a team, which I think is very important.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, even you see on the far right column, mic, music, Neil, mic, music, no music over rounds. Those are very, very helpful because sometimes, you know, when in the heat of the moment, things moving so quickly, that kind of
Yeah,
calms everybody down. Let's refer to the run of show sheet.
the Bible
So,
essentially.
yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Very, very
Now
good.
there might be like there may be questions, right? It's like, okay, but every format's the same, right? So why do you do more than one match on the run of show? Once you have the format, it's going to be rinse and repeat, right? It's just good practice to anticipate that maybe this match does have something different in it, right? So that's why we have um, every line detailed out instead of just saying, okay, match one, here it is, and match two follow the same format as match one. Because you never know if something needs to be inserted, something needs to be changed. All of a sudden, if there's at the next event, maybe a sponsor wants to come in between rounds and show ads or show like flash logos and that sort of stuff. It's just easier to be already in the flow of, okay, we're going to refer to match one here, match two here, match three, and so on. Right? It's just good practice. Yeah.
Yeah. We have another comment. Better have a drone camera guy. We
Ooh,
actually did.
don't tempt me
We
with a good
actually did. We
time.
actually did. At one of the events, I think it was in Istanbul. No, Georgia. Georgia for sure. Not sure about Istanbul. We had a guy who was a photographer, but he also bought his drone, and so he took a couple of drone shots for us. But usually for drone shots, we don't need a drone operator for the whole event. It's usually for bits and pieces, for B-roll stuff. Uh,
what would be cool, and this will be a little bit of production budget here, but if you get a spider camera or a cable camera, like what they do for
yeah,
NFLs or
soccer.
basketball. Yeah, exactly. That's hung from the ceiling and it goes across, so it looks like a drone shot, right? Like that kind of stuff. Super high production value. Some venues can't even support it because you need anchoring spots, but like that's a great alternative, especially for indoor venues, than drone. But yes,
This one. Don't go to venues that require you to use their team for production. I mean, it's really a hit or miss. I'll give an example, right? So Chicago, Colorado, we had to use the part of the team was from the venue, like a lot of the equipment, like I believe the cameras, the lights, and the PA
well,
system.
the lights were built into the building,
Correct.
so
Yeah.
we have
So
we
like
have to use their lighting
you
crew.
have to use it. So it's one of those
Or
where not
yeah,
every venue production team is an idiot, right? So but lesson learned, right? The only way to know is if you have used the same event venue before to really know one way or the other. So
it's a learning experience there.
it's quite challenging at times, but you bet that the next time we go back to Arlington, if we go back to Arlington, that guy's not on the payroll anywhere.
I would also consider the alternative, right? The alternative is, and I think it's an interesting point for the fans to kind of consider. Let's say that East versus West had just stayed in Pendic, right? The show would essentially look the same because it was the same guys, it was the same lighting crew. You couldn't change the stage setup, right? It would be the same show over and over again, just rinse and repeat with different athletes, right? Because you were limited.
Correct.
Yeah,
I mean that's the benefit of what happened in the past for East versus
yeah.
West. It was
But it's also
always
the
at the same venue.
but it's also the detriment, right? Because they would never use any additional lights other than the ones that were in the house that were provided. Basically, they might add a couple of like detail lights here and there. They might add an LED screen. They might add some stands in the back, but you were limited to the size and the shape of the venue. And consistency is great if it's good, but eventually after 10 events, you might be like, okay, well, what's next? It's always the same crowd that ends up going. It's always
Smaller crowd.
right. It's always roughly the same setup. And I think for arm wrestling to really grow and reach new audiences, it needs to be exciting. It needs to be fresh. And for that, there is the element of having to take risks with different venues and different production teams. And it's just part of the growing stages of it.
right now it's kind of in the whole entire year. Right now, I can really finally breathe, right?
Mm,
Because of several reasons. One of it is we don't have an event that is coming up in 6 weeks. It's more like almost 2.5 weeks. Oh, sorry, 2.5 months, right? So
yeah,
it's never been done in the whole year because we are skipping one event. But that's there's a lot of pressure when you're trying to figure everything out within technically only a month. We have to put an entire show together in a month because the final 2 weeks, it's actually going forward and building the whole show. So there, and also to be fair, it used to be 3 months versus 1.5 months because there was a separate team that did East versus West and the separate team that did King of the Table. When we bought both, we were planning on going back and forth a little bit, but ultimately we after Istanbul we realized that because of this kind of confusion, we had even several sponsors that said, well, if it's a East versus West event, I'll sponsor. But if it's a King of Table, we won't because East versus West had a slightly higher, well, actually quite a bit more higher
yeah,
brand awareness, right?
yeah,
So there is a lot of work, and unfortunately for us, and also to be fair to all the fans, it's not an excuse. It should not be an excuse. We should be always on our A game, regardless of how much time we have, right?
agreed.
So we'll get there. We'll get there. I mean, we have several venues that we know for sure we won't want to go back there again. And eventually, when we find good ones, we'll keep the same team, right? So like just Ben, right? Work with Ben. I like him. I yanked him off whatever other team he was
From my
on
normal life to fly around the
from his
world and
normal
look at
life.
arm
He comes
wrestling.
all the way from Dubai, which is not the closest, but we feel like he's instrumental enough. We dragged him over, and that's who we are keeping. And also to announce, we are bringing in a AV producer, and that producer will be responsible in coordinating with the venue, uh, making sure that they have all our requirements like power, internet, what are the some of the basic AV production like
Yeah,
equipment that's
yeah,
provided, like usually
super important.
staging, LED walls, you know, do they
Platforms
allow
for
backup
camera,
generators, those sort
yeah.
of things. So this person, maybe I might bring her on. Her name is Kristen, and she will be handling all of that for us. So this is a new hire, and her first job will be in Switzerland. I told her study Colorado's event very well. I want us to meet or exceed expectations. So
Yeah.
that's her job. And I've no doubt she'll do well because she comes highly recommended. Maybe Ben, you can tell us a little bit more about her.
Yeah, so I actually work with Kristen. She's based here. She's based here in the UAE. She comes highly recommended from me. um, so I worked with her on multiple productions, not just on live streams and broadcasts, but commercial work and editorial work as well. She works with multiple agencies, production houses here in the UAE, and she also works. Her background is in big boxing events, um, with the likes of Tyson Fury, Amir Khan, just a name drop. Like she's at kind of at that level where she's working and producing events, pitching documentaries, um, pitching Netflix series, that kind of stuff, right? So she has the expertise in the scale and also the level of professionalism that's needed, right? And she can navigate those waters very well. So if I were worried about the previous events, I'm not so worried now that Kristen's on board, because now I know that when I arrive, the venue is going to have the stuff that I need to work. And that's kind of like one of the main concerns. Like I'm sure Dexter will tell you as well. I send Dexter quite a few like worried messages like, hey, what's happening? I'm not getting any info. What's the deal with the venue? I need updates. I don't know what's happening. And that's because it's hard. It's hard to communicate, especially if I can't attend in meeting or in-person meetings, right?
Right,
But
right.
it's also hard for Dexter to just be a messenger. It shouldn't be on him to relay everything, and that's ideally the role of a producer or someone who is be like, hey guys, I've just spoken with the venue and they have confirmed that they have X, Y, and Z, so you can rest assured we're gonna have that. That should be on someone else. So
That's right. That's right. So we have a producer that's being added on. We have a sort of technical director, Aussie. So those would be super key, super key in the upcoming Switzerland event.
yeah.
And Switzerland being as they are, I'm not quite as concerned of the internet speed, right? I
Hmm.
mean, when we were in Istanbul, I was sweating a little bit. In Georgia, I was
Oh,
really sweating.
dude, there are some
I mean,
horror stories about Georgia internet.
yeah, if you guys knew what we had to deal with, like they had to pull a direct connection, a cable that's a mile and a half long, right? 8,000 feet of cable all the way through the mall, up the fire escape, into the venue, into our stage, and it was very scary. It
Yeah,
was very scary.
for me it was the timeline that was scary, right? It wasn't just the feasibility. So feasibility is one thing. If you brought up that issue and it was like, oh yeah, they have to do that a week beforehand, I'd be like, okay, like it's a toss of a coin. This was happening like a solid, 36 hours before. So it's
Yeah.
not ideal. Oh, did I lose my camera here? What happened?
Yeah, looks like you're frozen. But while you're at that, we have a super chat. Congratulations on a great team up with the Shaw Classic company. Great interview on Through the Fingers podcast with the Red Deer Assassin Zach. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, you might need someone to go around. We actually have an external team that goes around striking down videos the first 48 hours after an event, and then it tapers off because they're not the cheapest. And then we switch over to an internal team that actually goes and hunts them down, but it's not their full-time job to let me pull it up. Yeah, it's not their full-time job to go, you know, strike things. But starting tomorrow onwards, we will be releasing three events for full matches. So stay tuned. That'll be pretty good on our main event, on our main channel. Carolyn the Great. Well, while that's happening, let's answer some questions. Is it true that people that compete at GVW can compete at EVW or one-time pass only? Oh, okay, guys. If you guys actually watch what happened a couple hours ago, I was literally playing, uh, you know, on the same team as Schoolboy, Kalinichenko, and his buddy, and Zhao. Okay. It's not that they can compete anymore. It's for Zhao was kind of an interesting thing because we offered him, and apparently he couldn't wait long enough for us to go back to give him an answer, so he accepted GVW. So it was more of a bird in hand versus two in a bush kind of situation. So the only thing is he cannot pull in Switzerland. That was the only thing. That was the only thing. But who knows? Maybe for a December event he could come back. He's a pleasant guy. So there's that. Very soon you'll get to hear. Very soon, eh, I'm actually working with several different content creators, and full match. Well, not full. Yeah, the each influencer would have a premiere time where they're releasing a one of the match for the whole card. So stay tuned. So it'll be different people around the world announcing for the first time a match, and I'll schedule them. So that would be pretty cool. Um, all right, yeah. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah, sorry about that. Some ironically, some technical difficulties on my end.
Oh, good thing it's not on a pay-per-view stream.
I know. Good thing is just my camera running out of battery, and it's an easy fix by using a different camera.
Yeah, that's
So where were we? I think
man.
we were
We
just
have
talking
so much
about.
content to go through, and in order to expedite time, let's
Yeah.
jump into some of the media you sent me.
Okay,
Here we go.
sure. This is memory lane for me.
Okay, tell us more about what's happening here.
Yeah, so obviously, so it's kind of funny that we were at the Shaw Strength event, because when I first got to working with, alongside like Don Idris and Aussie and stuff, it was mainly for strongman and boxing, right? And now it's basically come full circle, full circle, full circle, because we've had I've had, strongman shows, then we had strongman doing boxing, then we had strongman doing boxing with Devin Lorette, which is, if you remember the Thor and Devin match when Eddie Hall tore his bicep, right? Devin stepped in as a replacement. So I've now seen these guys arm wrestle, box, and do strongman, all in the span of 4 years, right? So it's the same guys, just repeated. So I think a lot of people, or a couple of people, might have seen these photos on their internet, right? These are actually my photos that people have just taken and used as YouTube thumbnails and commented on them. They're actually mine. So fun, yeah, surprise.
Oh, hey,
Yeah.
dude, these
Um,
looks pretty good.
I know. Should hire me as a photographer instead.
Is
No,
that cheaper?
no. Actually,
Then no.
it won't be cheaper than who you have right now, I think.
Just
Uh,
teasing.
but yeah, so that was kind of my first. Um, but this was before my introduction to work as part of the broadcast team, right? I was kind of on that satellite media team where I would do. I think if you go through a couple of more things that I did send to you, some of the King of the Table behind the scenes stuff. I used to be the one who would film and ask questions and talk to the arm wrestlers and talk to the
Mm-hmm.
athletes about their upcoming match, do the kind of pre-fight interview. So we would film that kind of like the day or 2 days before the main event, and then I would be the one editing all of them. So I would film them, edit them, and then on the day I would do the audio, or I would do the sound, or I would do the photography, right? So my involvement was kind of always leading up to get brought into the live stream team. And because of that, I kind of know how things have to happen on the side and the timelines, which does help me in my work now. So,
Right.
yeah.
All right. Tell me. Let's talk a little bit about this festival.
Right. So this was actually kind of funny because this is obviously for Ultra Music Festival that happened in Abu Dhabi, right? And I was brought on this project. Obviously, Aussie was also involved, right? But I was brought on this project as a kind of like a project manager role, right? Like I would make sure the microphones are set up in the right place. Just making sure that the broadcast van is there on time, um, that kind of stuff. Like logistical, make sure the mics are here, pick up the mics, make sure the camera crew is there on time, that kind of handling, right? I wasn't actually part of the broadcast team. Up to this point, I've had, a couple of events where I have worked at a soundboard, so I do know how things get routed and run for broadcasts, right? And for whatever reason, the sound guy, just like your sound guy in Arlington, was just incompetent, fully incompetent at a music festival,
Getting PTSD, buddy.
at a music festival, at Ultra Music Festival. So the show director or the technical director that was there, who was flown in from Belgium, right, just said, "Hey, I saw you setting up earlier. Can you work the soundboard?" And I went like, "Me? This guy?" So I ended up. It was a 2-day festival. I took over about halfway through the first day, and I was basically brought in, substituted in as the sound guy. So this one was kind of a highlight of like, hey, if you know, it shouldn't happen. I'm not saying that you can just be tossed into a different workflow or a different job entirely, but I can be ready for it if it does happen in an extreme emergency, right? And I think we talked about this before as well. It's like, can you do this? I'm like, technically I could. I was never taught to be a sound engineer, right? But like, I've been around it so much that I can kind of adapt if I really have to. But this was a kind of a highlight moment and funny story from my side. So yeah. Okay, this one's super out of focus, but
Your
this,
picture. I don't know who the
yeah,
photographer
yeah,
is.
yeah. No, fair. But this is actually Aussie. A blurred out version of Aussie is actually censored, so you guys are kept in suspense of what he actually looks like. But no, this is typically what the inside of an OB van or a broadcast van looks like. You have the multi-cam, so he's basically switching between different feeds, different camera feeds, and you guys might have seen this a couple times here and there. But that's what the inside of a van looks like. Obviously, lots of buttons to press, kind of like an airplane cockpit, but I wouldn't be touching all of them, just like an airplane cockpit.
No. I think you guys have way more buttons than an airplane cockpit. Way
Maybe,
more buttons.
definitely more screens. I think we
For
have more.
sure. For sure.
I think we win on the screen department.
People don't realize how complex this bad boy is. It was nuts. It was nuts. And to be fair, in Arlington as well, we had a couple of mishaps because we didn't get to bring our regular equipment. It was the venue's equipment and everything was different. The layout was different. Imagine trying to type on a keyboard, right? You get a different keyboard and the alphabets are all over the place. You're bound to type the wrong letters at some point. So there is a lot of hate, right? When we go mainstream at some point, our team would always have the luxury of keeping the same equipment wherever we go. That is the day where there'll be a lot of consistencies and broadcast is a thing of the past.
Yeah,
Yeah, we won't even have a headache.
and I think Dexter, that was one of the first conversations that we really had to have a chat about. Right? It's like how much do we bring show to show, and how much does that affect the consistency?
Correct.
And the answer is a lot. The more you can bring with you, the better. So yeah, this is just I threw a couple in just to show kind of like the backstage, like, and you guys probably now in this age, you guys probably have seen like backstage of like behind the scenes or back of house of like events, right? Like they're not usually pretty, just like how back of house in a hotel is not pretty. But yeah, just to give you guys some like idea and scale. I believe this was Illenium, like one of the artists that were playing. It's still Outro Music Festival. Oh, I do believe this was King of the Table 8.
That's really crap. Oh, you can see the run of show right there.
Yeah, that's the run of show. And that is me working the soundboard with the voice of arm wrestling himself, Ray Lipins.
Coach Ray. Mhm.
Coach Ray. And he was commentating in this case. And I don't know if this was the event, but I don't know if it was King of the Table 8, but I think that might have been the first match between Devin and Levon. I think that was the first time they pulled. Maybe fact check me on that.
Yeah,
But
I'm gonna check.
see if my memory serves me well.
But King of the Table 8. We
Should be the main
have
event. Dubai.
no, it's not.
Wrong? Okay.
The John Bazing versus Alexei, Matt Mass versus Ron Bath, Krasimir versus Lachlan, Kalinichenko and Shaw, Lars versus
I have done so many of them. So the reason why I thought it was this is because I distinctly remembered one specific moment. Just jumping back to myself next to Coach Ray, I distinctly remember one moment in all of it where it was the Devin and Levon match, and Devin in the first round managed to stop him about that far from the pin pad, where he was just holding on, and the pin pad was right here, and everyone lost their minds. If you listen to the audio for that event, I was expecting everyone to go crazy, so I turned down the gain, or I turned down the volume of the commentary microphone, because Ray was just screaming his heart out. He was like, "Nah!" And the audio was never the same after that. He might have broken the microphone, but we were pumped. We were pumped back there, and yeah, that's why I thought it was this. But obviously, I've done too many at this point.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little blur from one
It
event
all
to the
blends
other.
together. Yeah, it all blends together.
This was Chicago.
Yeah, so this is what Chicago looked like when I first arrived, which I think I arrived Wednesday or Tuesday. Oh no, Wednesday. Yeah, there
Wednesday.
was a flight. There was the delay in the flight. So yeah, this was what it looked like when I first got to the venue. Right, no seats. As you can see, the event team. We have Jeremy there. This is before the stage gets put in. The LED wall is just being set up, and I appreciate these guys because they were setting up as fast as they could, as early as they could. So it made my job like that on that day quite easy. As you remember, like Jeremy was quite on it. I really like working with his team. You can kind of see Henry back there as well, kneel down. He has some white letters on his shirt. Henry was the sound engineer there, so he was trying to do the best he could with the layout of the room. But yeah, that's what an event kind of looks like when I first get my hands on it. It's kind of the skeleton of the event, and it's not quite filled out yet. And it's actually quite cool to be there through the whole process because you get to see your idea of what the event should look like kind of take shape.
So in Georgia, they kind of dictated, well, the AV team that we
Mm-hmm.
partner with, they kind of dictated how it should look like because they
Yeah.
were saying, "Oh, the Georgian mayor is coming, so he won't come unless it's a good show and it needs to look good. If it looks like a crappy show, you guys won't get the sponsorship because the city was giving us some money, and it needs to look a certain way." So one of the things that they mentioned that won't look good on a stream is this. You see that
It's that top bar
horizontal bar on the very top, that truss with
with the
all the
lights.
lights. They said, "Oh, that would look ugly, so let's take it out." And so we had to like, "No, we need that. We need that really badly." I'm like, "Nope, nope. The mayor won't like it because it's
I
right
think,
in his face."
yeah.
So we're like, "What?"
And I think part of that is inexperience, and part of it is just stupidity, because the inexperience part here's where I'm gonna bring in a little bit of um, I'm gonna drop some knowledge bombs, but no, it's just inexperience. It's just inexperience because when you set up a show like this, most of the time people are thinking about if I were in the audience, how would it look, right? Like the whole thing, the stage, the lighting, the trussing, what you can see, what you can't see. Most of the time people think about that. What I have to think about and what we have to think about as a brand or a production, right, is not just what it looks like in the venue, but how does it look like on the pay-per-view, and which takes a priority, right? Like, do you sacrifice a little bit of an eyesore with the lights hanging there for the live audience so that we can have a better experience on the pay-per-view? For me, the answer is always yes. But inexperience, in this case with the Georgian, AV team, says no, it looks ugly. Why would you want this there? So that's where the stupidity part comes in.
Yeah, yeah. It was one of those things where they didn't understand what we were doing. And to be fair, arm wrestling is not like mainstream just quite yet. We're almost there. And so there's a lot of people that if you just speak with them, "Hey, we are hosting an arm wrestling event." Like, okay, whatever that is. So, but if you're talking about like a boxing, a UFC, like they kind of know what it should look like.
Yeah, and
Arm
I would
wrestling is
say,
kind of unique because there are certain angles that are terrible, like right behind the athlete, for instance. You don't want anybody sitting right there because you can't really see anything whatsoever. So
yeah.
it's not like constantly moving around. But
Yeah, I would say that when you say that you have a boxing event or an MMA event, the setup is a lot more standardized than a arm wrestling event, right? Like just think about the venues that you have mentioned so far. You have Arlington at an
right,
esports arena. You have Georgia in a mall. You have Pendic in a theater. Then you have Colorado in an arena, right? Then you have Chicago in a ballroom, right? Like each one of those were all in different shaped venues acoustically for sound. There are different heights for the seats. Like every venue is different. So it's always a fun.
it was a funny joke. I had to put it up.
Take it. Yeah. But yeah, we end up working with so many different venues and so many different possible lighting setups that you always end up having issues. The sneak peek. This is the reason why East versus West in the past never had a commentary booth.
Why?
This is unveiling it, because we were in this hallway. I remember just above the theater, right, in the back of house. So it looks, the reason why was, first of all, running cameras there. We had to set up lights, additional backdrop, that kind of stuff, right? But this was essentially kind of humble beginnings of the East versus West commentary team, right? Obviously, you have Neil Pickup himself, you have Travis Bajan in the back, and then you have Ray. And all three of them are looking at a monitor. You can notice that none of them are wearing actual commentary headphones. They're just raw dogging the microphone. They have for how they heard themselves, you can notice in the bottom left of the screen, there is a speaker there that's pointed against the wall to avoid feedback into the microphone. And that's how they were listening to the stream. So this was, like when we talk about the levels of production and how much you can spend on production value, we can get by with this, right? But like, is it the most professional? Did it look better in Colorado with a backdrop and an actual commentary booth that they have in arenas? Yeah, of course it does. But this kind of gets the job done for a commentary booth. And this was the setup for quite a while. I think for probably 6 or 7 of them, it was like this, right? And off screen here, where Neil's left would be, the table kind of extends out, and that would be the soundboard. So I would be sitting here with them for 6 to 7 hours in this room. You might think it's really well lit right now, but that's because there's a flash on my camera. So it's actually super dark in here. But yeah, that would be our little commentary cave for about, pretty much 5 to 7 hours.
Just to give you a comparison, look. This is 19 commentary booth.
Yeah. So here, obviously, you see a little bit more production value, right? Again, it comes down to the fact that they have an arena. They have an arena with actual commentary booths that are built into the arena, right? That's the first thing. The other thing is that they have a team that is used to be doing commentary booth pre-shows, cameras, that kind of stuff. And so the layout is kind of set up for it. They have monitors where they should be. They have a high table where they can kind of lean on and show the background of the event, right? And there was just a little bit more planning involved here. And I actually really like the way that pre-show ended up looking. I think they obviously also had better like microphones that wouldn't catch as much feedback. We actually specifically worked with Dylan, who was in the arena, and I spoke to him as well about trying to align with him and making sure that the audio from his speakers, to shut some of them off, the ones that are pointing into the commentary booth. So we only pointed speakers away from the commentary booth to reduce the feedback and the echo that you guys get. So that was something that we also had to keep in mind here. But yeah, I liked it. I like the way that this one looked.
Yeah. The commentary booth, somebody is asking, can they see a commentary booth of here you go. Can we see a commentary booth of Baku? I think it looks like this, guys. I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just kidding. I'm gonna get in trouble with the Baku guys.
Yeah. Either that, or you're gonna get in trouble with Adobe because that's stock footage.
Right, they're gonna do a copyright strike. But
yeah,
let me show you a couple more behind. Oh, sorry, there's one more event here.
all my pictures are kind of like behind the scenes stuff, right? Because obviously I'm always behind the camera. But yeah, these were the press conferences of the past, right? And yeah, this was essentially the ballroom that you guys, if you've been following East versus West for a while, you guys know this ballroom. It was always the same ballroom used for the press conference. It was always lit by just the straight up ballroom lights. And yeah, there's nothing really too crazy about this press conference setup, and I don't think, my personal opinion, I get the value that press conferences bring, but I still think they're super super long. And
Well, I mean, Colorado was pretty
it
short.
was an hour and a half in Colorado, right?
Do you know why? Because
Tell me
everybody
why.
spoke English.
Yeah.
There
Well,
was it just added that whole
it
feel, and
does.
I'm so glad that
Yeah.
we have several European athletes who have started to really actually formally take classes.
Yeah.
That would
I
be
think that.
so good.
Yeah.
So good for the sport.
I would say that um, that's one of the things I predicted, actually, that the Colorado press conference would be at least a little bit more entertaining, just because everyone could get in on the back and forth and everyone was engaged in the conversation, instead of having to, kind of just sit there and wait for a translator, or just sit there sometimes and not have a translator and just listen. Imagine if that was you, right? Imagine you're sat at a table with like 20 other people and they're all speaking this other language that you have no idea what it is, but you
You'd
have
be
to sit there
bored.
for three
Yeah.
hours. Of course you're going to get bored. You're going to get on your phone, you're going to get bored. Like, it's not fun for them either, right? And it's the day before they're competing. So yeah, I think Colorado was a step up, but I think we need to make it better still. I think the
That's
press
why we
conference needs some attention.
I mean, if most people spoke English, I think that whole everybody sat down kind of makes
It
sense.
works, yeah.
But if it's like, well, there's like quite a number who doesn't, then it feels like the one-on-one would probably be better, right?
Mhm.
Because half the time, the ones that don't speak English, no fault to them, by the way. English is not my first language, no fault to them. But there will be a lot of like, well, can I take out my phone and play Angry Birds or
Exactly,
something? Because I'm bored. I don't know what's
exactly.
happening, and I'm just here just to be here.
Yeah, because
Y-
they have to
You
be
know,
there, right?
yeah,
And
yeah, for
yeah,
sure,
it's
for
it's,
sure.
it's not nice
So
for them.
yeah, so that's why you kind of like switch around and mess around a little bit. You
Yeah,
know, some planning meetings,
yeah. So
some
this is
commentary
kind of the
booths,
stuff that,
secondary.
yeah, this is kind of stuff, all stuff from the recent one in Colorado.
Yeah, this Carrie, Brian's lovely wife. She
Yeah.
was so very nice, accommodating.
Yeah, right here she was actually telling me where the stage was gonna go. This was the day before, right? So as you can see, it's literally just an empty arena. The day before, they were having the strongman show and they were setting up for that. And I was just questioning her, and I have a head, like a mini camera on my head, like an action camera, and I was just asking her, like, tell me exactly where the stage is gonna be and where the LED screens are, because then with that I could just go to work, right? If I didn't know that, I would have no clue what I was doing. So.
Drew, to answer that, that's a pretty good idea. We might take
Mhm.
that into consideration. But the problem is there could be multiple different languages, and then I'm in trouble.
Also, we have no idea if they're just going to listen to music while we're doing this. They could just be playing their own thing in there, listening to a podcast. Yeah. So
Uh,
this is typically what my camera sees during the behind the scenes or the prep of the show. Just trying to make sure, like, just if you can see where, just to give you guys a frame of reference, there's like a row of lights right on the bottom of the picture. That's where, if you see the one that's really bright in the farthest right, that's where the commentary booth is,
yeah.
right? So I'm on the floor, the commentary booth is all the way up there. The darker room next to him, that's where the control room is. And so I'm speaking on this comms headset, or this communication radio device that Dexter was previously talking about as well. I'm speaking to the operator there, to from the venue, the operator from the venue, to turn the lights on and off so I can look and test how bright it is and see how it looks, right? So I do this for about an hour and a half to 2 hours each event, different lighting presets, making sure the spotlights, I kind of how I want it, creating looks for, like, when people are walking in, do we have an ambient look, do we have a stage look, do we have a, like a crowd shot look if we need like crowd lighting. So all this stuff I try and do it in advance, but this is mostly what it ends up looking like. It's me just staring at lights and being blinded for 2 hours.
There's another back. Oh, we've already shown this one. Oh, and this one
Oh,
too.
that's Baku.
Shh. I can't talk about that. Gonna get myself into trouble.
Right. Oh, I didn't say anything.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Time
So
lapse.
yeah, I set up the time lapse just to show and this is it's a 5 minute long video, so it's a little bit long, but this process was on the day after the strongman moved out. And you can see me there kind of like stepping on the stage, making sure it's all good. At this point, I am literally dying to just be like, hey guys, can we get please, can we get the arm wrestling table in as fast as possible? Dexter received the message. Who's responsible for the table? Adam received the message. Who is responsible for the table? Um, and so I eventually, at the end of this, I eventually kind of wrangled together some of Brian guys, and had them help me move the table in. Throughout this process, of course, the day before and the day of, I'm working quite closely with Brian and Carrie herself, just to make sure that because here's the process. I would see something that would be like, oh, this would be good on camera, or this would be efficient for a stage layout. I'm gonna propose this to them, and then they would yes or no it. Basically, was how it went down on the day, right? Because obviously we have to work with the equipment that we have, the LED screens that we have. But I was trying to make the most of what we could do. Um, Same thing with the walkouts, by the way, the little banners and stuff like that. We borrowed it from the Strongman event. They weren't supposed to be part of the walkout, but I was like, hey, since they're the same sponsors, can we just use them to add a little bit of show value? And they were like, yeah, sure. Also, it was to guide the athletes and make sure they didn't wander off somewhere where they're not supposed to, right? It was very clear where they were supposed to go. But yeah, so now you can see the tables in. All while this is happening, by the way, we are coordinating with the venue, who are also like delivering and or not delivering, but setting up the strongman equipment for the day after. So what you guys didn't see is once the backdrop came up, you thought like that was blackout curtains, that's it. Behind us was a whole kind of like separate strongman implement for the keg toss that they were doing, which was almost at the, you'll see it in just a little bit here, but it almost touched the top of the Megatron, or that screen that they have.
Jumbotron, yeah.
Yeah.
Megatron's Transformers.
Oh,
But
Transformers. Sorry, the Jumbotron. Yeah. So here comes the screen in, right? And the Jumbotron's being raised for this reason now, which you'll see, which is that keg toss height implement is going to be brought in. But yeah, at this time, I'm just telling them, now that we have the backdrop in, let's start the layout for the screens. Let's kind of measure out where the screens are going to go. And the screen guys, bless their hearts, they had like 3 hours to set up 2 screens, which doesn't sound like, oh, that's a big rush, right? But they have to be set up on trussing, they have to be wired, they have to be powered, they have to be tested, which they weren't tested enough, in my opinion. Okay. But yeah, this entire process was maybe, hey, Aaron, but this entire process was maybe 4 hours, maximum 4 hours until this show started. Because I think we got the venue handed over to us at about 1:30, and the pre-show was at 6 p.m. So there wasn't a lot of time for testing here, right? But yeah, now you can see the tables down. I think at this point we were shaking the table around a little bit and it was moving. So we knew we had to find like rubber matting. So we put that down as well. And yeah, that now we're kind of getting into that part where I am telling Dylan, who is, like I said, working the lights, to give me the show lighting profiles that we had set up before so that I can see now if it's what I imagined the day before. Because previously to that, we had set up the lights all just based on, whatever I had in my head, right?
yeah.
Now it's crunch time where like the lighting better work because we don't have a lot of time before the show. So at this point, I have him do stage lighting and it looks good. And we go through all the rest of the checks. Obviously, we had to clean up the stage. We had to set up the corner tables. There was a sponsor, Nice Rock, that had their recovery device that they wanted to put on the tables.
Yeah.
And so like I was just going back and forth with Brian on a lot of the setup here. A couple of strongmen came in for the briefing. I wanted to kick them out, but then they kind of left by themselves, which was great. I don't want to tell strongman what to do with anything because they can, just break me. So but there they go. And here you see me moving the little sponsorship things there one at a time. And yeah, that this is basically my life pre-show, right? Like I'm essentially running the floor here, floor manager, making sure stuff is in the right place at the right time. And yeah, I don't know how much more that is, but I assume the screens get set up and then the curtains get brought in, and
Yep.
we kind of get on it with the show. I would say that we had roughly about 25 minutes to practice, to drill, to test. That included practicing the walkouts, practicing the lighting. At this event, we had spotlights, so the spotlight operators needed to practice where they were moving the spotlights. We had to practice the cues with audio, with the DJ, um, with the sample athletes who were doing the walkout. And yeah, so it was not a lot of time, but we managed to pull it off rather smoothly, I would say.
So here's a question that feels kind of pertinent to this video. We need stadium seatings moving forward as much as possible.
Mm.
Now, I don't disagree, but keep in mind, if there were no piracy involved and everybody bought the pay-per-view, 1,000%, we absolutely love this layout a lot better. Now, what happens is, even if you use one row of chairs and if you use every chair in the venue, it's the exact same cost. Okay. In terms of venue rental, the only reason why we could have done so in this stadium arena really is because the strongman leased it for for an additional 2 more days for their strongman event. So by tagging along, economies of scale, this was now feasible.
Manageable.
Still very expensive, but still feasible because of because they are not renting it for a day or two, they're renting it for the whole week. Well, slightly less than a whole week.
Bulk
So that's
discount.
right. And especially we probably only use like a third of the whole stadium capacity, because you can see the seating's actually cut off about not not left and right of this, the seat is actually closer. It's less
Yeah.
than 180 degree.
Where the
span.
VIP seats kind of end, that's
Yeah.
where the seats in the stadium also ended.
Correct.
So that's, I would say, about a quarter of the arena seating was used.
So
Yeah.
we try. I mean, Istanbul did have those amphitheater seating style, right? That one's pretty good too. Switzerland, because of the venue, they need a large venue because it's in conjunction with the Swiss Open. It's gonna be a massive. It's gonna be a massive venue, just to accommodate both the Open tournament and our event. But going forward, there might be a time where we could play things around and switch things up. Where I want to do one where I know it's taboo within the company, but I want to say like WAL style a little bit. I was just watching some old videos.
Mhm.
There's also that kind of energy, and it's great when there isn't too many people. When you have like 300 people, that kind of setup does make it feel like there's a whole ton of people there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But when
Yeah.
when you expect, like in Chicago, in Arlington, we had thousands of people there. Yeah, that setup like WAS style doesn't really work anymore because there'll be way too many people, and it will just be overflow. But I think
Fire hazard at that point.
when you have about 300 people, 300 to 500 people in attendance, I think that will play really, really well.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's also, I think, it's a very good point. And here we have Chicago, right? Like the seats extended, by the way, past that wall, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a roller wall that was removed, and seats went past back that.
all the way back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
they switched this off because there was an open tournament the night before, so they were making a lot of noise, and to do some testing, we had to close this off. But man, it didn't seem like much, but we had a ton more people in Chicago and Arlington compared to Colorado.
yeah. But also I think it's kind of weird, right? Because you expect that the crowd, if anything, would be bigger. That will have lots of arm wrestling fans. Plus, I did see, because I was walking in the stands a lot, I did see a lot of potentially strongman fans or strongman athletes that were competing that day, watching as well. So all the comments about like growing the sport, getting strongman to watch, arm wrestling, it did happen live. I don't know if it happened on stream, right? But it did happen live, and I think a lot of people actually enjoyed themselves from the reactions that I was witnessing. But yeah, back to the seating. I have, I think, a couple of pictures in there where I took pictures of what it looked like from the back of how small the stage was, um, with this setup, with this seating setup. And my personal opinion is I agree. I think the staggered seating is possible. However, like Dexter says, not every venue has that available, and it's important to get the ratio of like the floor size of where the show can happen. I thought about that before. I've thought about a rotating circle stage before, like a gladiator style, where the Colosseum is raised up like a bowl, right? And
Everybody,
then
it's,
and then
it's
and
just
then it
crazy.
rotates. The problem with that is that your cameras are also going to have to be on that platform, because if not, like you're going to get the most ridiculous camera angles, right? So it's going to end up being a big platform. But Ozzy and I have talked about that before when we talked about how are we going to spice up the production value, like what kind of setup would we like. We were basically theory crafting what would be a cool setup, like a cool experience to go to, and it would be that the table's moving, right? So yeah, here this was kind of like the last. This is what it looked like from the VIP section, of the last show in Colorado.
Ah, was
And
this Brian Shaw's final remark
I think it was final remarks. Yeah,
before
it was.
Robert and I got on stage? Yeah.
Yeah. Right before that, I think.
That's pretty cool.
Um, but this is how it looked for a live audience that's small. Once you get to the arena seating stuff, then you're talking about like nosebleed seats at a football game. It's
Yeah.
going to be hard to like see what's going on. You're basically watching the screens at that point as well. All right. Um, yeah,
Mark
just some behind the
table.
scenes
They're
stuff
setting
of
things up.
Okay.
yeah,
That's
that's Anna.
Anna, which is my next guest, by the way. Uh, gotta set a time, but yeah, she's super strong and
Yeah.
she's our event coordinator. But yeah, didn't mean
I
to
actually
hijack.
just realized, um, I think yesterday, that I think you, myself, and maybe a few other people are maybe the only other people on the team that don't arm wrestle,
Whoa, whoa,
right?
whoa, whoa! Back up! Don't group me with you, buddy. Don't group
Oh,
me with you.
okay. I
I
see what
I
it is.
arm wrestle. I do it
No.
every day with my kids. I don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, like I think it's an interesting perspective, um, that that to kind of be not an athlete in the sport, because I've been in that position before where you're an athlete in the sport and you're also part of the production team. Dexter beats Levon.
He's
Yeah.
going down. Have him play
Dexter's kid is
with
also
me.
named Levon, really?
Devon can't beat me.
Yeah, but I think it's an interesting perspective, like, being fans of the sport essentially, because I have watched arm wrestling before I started working with arm wrestling. This is the time lapse again. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Here does another video. But
Yeah. So this was the press conference setup, in Colorado itself.
oh, okay, okay. Fun fact, guys. Fun fact. You know how everybody was like, "Hey, press conference stream's down." Uh, EVW stream is worse than the Shaw Classics team. It's like, guys, it's the same guy. It's the same guy who controls the output feed. So till now we don't fully know for 100% certainty why our streams, audio and at one point our
Yeah.
video was a little bit poor, but it's the exact same setup. We had no two separate teams working on things. It was the same guy. So yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. People says like, hey, EVW's production team is worse than Brian Shaw's team's like, no, it's the
Reminds
same
me of
team.
something. It reminds me of a
It's the
different
same
comparison.
team.
Same team, guys. Sometimes freak technical like difficulties happen. I was actually in the room with them when they were like trying to figure that out, and to me, I looked at it and I was like, it shouldn't have this issue, because two wires coming out of one encoder. It was a multi-stream encoder, right? So it was literally one piece of hardware with two streams, and the settings were digital, meaning that it wasn't a cable connection, it wasn't like a thing, like like it wasn't a hardware issue, okay?
Yeah.
And the software settings were all the same, and there was the issue persisting. So what happened was, I think, restarting it, and then it kind of worked. So who knows what happens there? Is my moral of the story when you start doing multi streams.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird thing because we had no idea what was happening.
Yeah. Even
But
even the guy, even the operator had no idea what was
yeah, it's
happening.
like, oh, it's bad.
Never
I
seen
don't know.
anything.
I'm
Yeah.
hearing it fine. It's like, no, it's really bad. People couldn't
On the
hear
other
us.
stream.
It's like it's so muffled. I don't know. So anyway, it's almost 2 hours. I want to slowly wrap things up, and
Sure.
I'm gonna start answering questions. Why King of the Table 1 are being reposted as of now? So as you know, we bought the assets of all King of the Table. We realized that there were a lot of videos of previous matches missing, and so I just want our channel to host and become the library for all videos for all matches in the entire history of both leagues. So that's why we are reposting it on our channel. I think currently some of the videos are leaving in Core Sports channel, Matt Rhodes channel, Ingen's personal channel. So I'm just trying to put everything back into the company official channel. Also, selecting proper venue is so critical. Some places as crappy access to enough power, internet, Wi-Fi. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of exactly it. So right now, I kind of
100% true.
spoke to Kristen. It's like, this is all the problem we have in the past. Can you please make sure that the next team that we work with has it all this figured out? So, and Kristen, our new AV producer. Next, have you considered purchasing a permanent venue location such as a
Ooh.
hotel, resorts, campground? Increasing revenue is extremely difficult. How can you control production costs? I mean, does the
That's
UFC
a
have a permanent location?
that's a cost commitment though.
I think UFC doesn't even have a permanent
They
venue
they don't,
location.
but they definitely have contracts for venues
Yeah,
where
I
they're locked
mean,
in for a certain amount of
my goal is to have at least one super event, just like the UFC, once a month, right? And then every week would be an event somewhere around the world on a lower tier, like an undercard level. That's kind of my goal. But
so cool.
in the future, Mr. Peanut, ask me that question in like 2 years. How do I sign up for your next Dota 2 game? I play position 2, 3, 4. Technically, we do have a Discord channel now, so
Oh, I'm
go
gonna jump in
join
on
that.
that.
Sorry.
I'll jump in on that.
Yeah. So we have a Discord channel. If you go to my other video that I streamed earlier today with Zaur Kalinichenko, Schoolboy,
Yeah.
and his buddy, I did post our Discord link that is good for 7 days. So
Okay.
join there. Hit me up. Happy to involve more of the community. What I was essentially doing is to kind of signal to the whole world, because I think maybe we didn't really explain it very well, so that's kind of my fault. But Zaur is not permanently banned from EVW. That's what I was trying to showcase. Like, I can even play a game of Dota with him. It's more of a unity thing. Laugh all you want, but if you think about it, the whole point, like the major turning point
Mm,
from how we got back with the E's,
yeah.
at least in my storybook, was Dota, over a game of Dota.
What
And
position were you playing?
I was playing one. I
Yeah.
was
So
playing with Kalinichenko,
it's
right?
the power play
And then he
one.
was like, dude, Dexter is a decent player. Maybe he gets my respect. And then he calls Camille and says, Camille, I think we should rethink this whole thing about Robert and Dexter. I don't think they're bad dudes, man.
I mean,
You know.
plays a good position
And
one.
then they start, you know what? I think, yeah, you know what? Sorry, you're right. Let's go tell the rest of the Europeans that these two guys are not
That's
idiots, right?
that's
They're
an
not bad
amazing
people.
story.
And then that's what start the whole ball rolling. So to save a sport, we ended up doing another sport, esports, right? So anyway,
I
Yeah.
thought it was a fun thing. So, and once in a while, I knew just now we had a pretty good time. I think we played a couple of games. Schoolboy and was like, "Hey, can we do this again?" I'm like, "Oh, I gotta work, buddy. I can't keep playing." And then he was,
Yeah.
Can we do it once every 2 weeks?" Like, sure, we can do once every 2 weeks.
From a production standpoint, this is great because it gets them out of their shell, and it's not just about arm wrestling anymore. They become characters. So
Well, the only thing I kind of regret is I didn't really understood Russian very well. Well, zero.
in Dota, you just need Davai, 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 go, go, go.
Seeing Schoolboy and his, like fuzzy hair, just like home chilling, snacking while playing. It was every athlete was just really comfortable, not all
Yeah,
stressed out. Like, "Oh, I'm gonna get ya," you know.
yeah.
So, what was Ben's thoughts after watching Shaw Classic, and what equipments do you need to match that standard? Was it an equipment thing, though, Ben?
Um, it
Or was it
wasn't equipped.
competency of the third party contractors?
That was it. Yeah, these guys knew what they were doing, and hats off to them. They ran a very good show. Um, to be fully honest, and I think Dexter is fine with me saying this. When I first went there, I didn't know what I would specifically be doing, right? Because it seemed like they had the production side of things down from a workflow perspective. However, from an arm wrestling event perspective, it was their first time. So that's where I kind of stepped in there.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had left all the technical stuff to them, they probably would have been okay. Now, would the lighting and the arm wrestling, setup be as comfortable? Would it have been that moody? Would it have been that kind of stuff? Maybe not, because they're used to broadcasting strictly just sports events. I think, right? Not so much like pay per view events. Like think CrossFit Games, think Arnold's Sports Festival, that kind of idea, right? It's not too showy, although Arnold's does do a good job.
Yeah.
But I think that what made a difference here is their comfort with the equipment that they have been using before. They brought in their own van. Their competency in terms of like they knew their equipment very well. They knew how to operate it. And for example, things like we told them that we are going to have the referee cameras there, or the little table cameras, right? So they already knew that they had to run the cable to the stage, or at least they were prepared to do that already. Meaning they had the table, they had the 4 rolls of cables laid out that says these are going to the table. Okay, cool. And then we told them beforehand we have to have the cameras, 1 main camera and then 2 cameras adjacent to that to get the side angles. And they were like, okay, cool. So they had the cameras ready. That's what I mean by competency. They kind of knew what had to be done, and they were able to execute on it. Right. That's not to say that our team still didn't give insight of we have to have the cameras there because this is what's needed for the stream. Or I suggested that, hey, the cameras, instead of being on the shoulder, should really be on a tripod because it's going to be a long event. That's that kind of stuff we still added. But this team was good in being able to respond well to directions and adapt, right? So like we were giving them, as you can see, like it was 4 hours notice, and we were really meeting with them to set up only the day before. So that meeting with the whiteboard and stuff like that, the TV screen, we basically need better. We need more reliable operators and production companies that we can trust, essentially.
Yeah. This
Putting
one about
cameras on pads or
on
sensors.
pads or sensors for. I mean, we already have
Oh,
the cameras, so we've added 4 more cameras than we've had in the past. Well, I mean, we started that
on on
in Arlington, I think. Yeah.
on
So
this note, Dex, I actually have an idea, and I don't know if it's feasible to do, but Ozzy and I have talked about this before as well, because everything that's below kind of that pin line, right? Because it's not just the pin pads, it's also the pin line, right? In construction companies, you have a laser leveler, right? So if something crosses that laser, like there, it opens up a can of worms, okay? Because you also don't want lasers next to sensors, next to camera sensors. But I have given thought about all of this before, not just like, do we have a additional camera to look at an angle, but can it be electronically detected whether it's pinned or not pinned? So yeah, sensors or a laser or something like a visual aid, so that if the referee sees like a laser pointer on the bottom of the hand, they can tell.
Yeah. One of the big reasons why I released the rules and I specifically included the dimensions of the table is because I have we have plans. I mean, we have plans to take this mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that is required to go mainstream, in my opinion, as well, is that worldwide adoption. And right now, everywhere I go, just I don't know if you guys play any other sport like pickleball, badminton, basketball, whatever, right? Imagine going to a, every new venue and dimensions are a little off. Like the ball's a little smaller, the court's a little wider, the goalpost is a little narrower and lower, right? It's really difficult. So by hopefully putting it out there, and I know everybody they kind of know what the WAF standard is, but at the very minimum, like they know this is what every builder should be doing, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like that's the standard, this gold standard. Let's keep it that way. So
And also
one thing
format.
about having that's kind of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Network solutions. Just so you know, I know there were a couple of people who mentioned about Starlink. Starlink is a no-go. Starlink is incapable of doing a live stream, and the reasonings being, even though I'm sure everybody has internet at home, they say, "Hey, dude, it's 100 megabits, right?" But it's not always 100 megabits. It's like 100 megabits for a while, and it drops down to 60, and it goes up to 80, and comes down to 40, and it comes up to 80, right? It has that fluctuation. Starlink is even worse. And for a live stream, you can't have it like blur and then sharp, blur and then sharp, right? So it's got to be a little bit more standard. Yeah, I mean, you could technically hook up 6 Starlinks together and make it work.
Cellular
So
bonding is something we did talk about before, though.
yeah, we did use it in Istanbul because Istanbul, they were using their satellite relay system, the satellite truck, but even that wasn't very good. So that's why we built a secondary. And what that is having like 20 SIM cards with 5G connected to it.
That's the cellular
And
bonding.
that cost us like $5,000. It was
Yeah,
pretty ridiculous.
That's the bonding viewpoint.
Yeah.
Cost money to get a reliable internet.
Boxing ring style setup.
Yes, I have considered it, but it just depends on what the venue can give me and what Dexter says yes to. I have considered a lot of things.
Is EVW part of Swiss Open? Yes, sir. It is part of the Swiss Open. It's a co-branded kind of thing. We are part of it, but the Swiss team obviously is running everything. More to follow. Follow us on our social media, and you will get more information. Yeah, Starlink. Nope, no bueno. Starlink is not possible. We've tested it. Matter of fact, our streaming partner says no. Can we hire? And the reason why I'm rushing is because I'm trying to, put it under 2 hours. But can we hire someone to make Devin not look like a homeless hobo? I mean, that's his persona. You don't want to change that. If he comes in a suit, that's not Devin.
Break the internet.
That's not Devin.
Also, I think Jody is already on that, but she hasn't been able to change that yet. So
I mean, the only time I saw him borrow a suit was he was the keynote speaker for some charity event. There was that. I can't announce who Vitaly's opponent yet. Stay tuned. Some influencer will be doing that. And let's see. All merch are up. I think posters will be up soon, but our credit card system's all good to go. We will try to use more stages than ballrooms. That's for sure, but no guarantees. And finally, would we consider incorporating slap fighting? That's stupid.
So the event that I was working with right before this Colorado one was the slap fighting event that Eddie Hall had. And on that event, on that card, was Lachlan Adair and Derek Smith.
Yeah.
So I saw these guys like a month before Colorado in Dubai, and they were slapping each other.
Yeah.
It's not as fun as arm wrestling. I have to say that. I actually prefer arm wrestling.
So I know we are out of time, but I thank
Yeah.
Ben. I thank everybody. You guys have been great. Love you guys. Stay tuned for more exposure, and hit us up on the questionnaire, and we'll answer as best we can. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. All right. See you guys.